Morning, guys. Afternoon. I think obviously this morning we didn't do anything in training. We recovered them yesterday and today, and purely and simply because we just cannot afford any more knocks or bruises. I think from the game the other night, correct me if I'm wrong, I said that Gregory, Jay, Robbie Robinson, did I say the other night? No. So they're the three major doubts that we have. Breck Shea's okay. Gregory, 100%. I will put my life that he'll be okay for tomorrow. Just need to look at his eyes. He's telling me that he's okay. Jay Chapman wouldn't have been able to train today, but I'd say that Jay is in a real good frame of mind, positive, and he's 50-50, but probably erring towards a 60-40 in a positive way. Robbie's got a sickness bug. He's got sickness and diarrhea. So I'd say that we're going to have to give him right to the last minute. You never know how he's going to wake up in the morning. So ultimately, we couldn't name a team today. We couldn't do any really team practice today. That's why we told you not to bother coming watching training today, because it was literally just a stretch. We have to protect everybody. And then with LGP out, that was the other guy. LGP's out suspended. No Figal back. We're now looking at hardship. Hardship means that you have to have 16 of your rostered players available, outfield players available. At this moment in time, I think we've got 12 at 100%, and that's not including Gregory, Robbie and Jay Chapman. So that takes us to 15. There's a good chance tomorrow. That MA hopefully will be allowed to join us in the squad, but we're in the hands of the league in terms of sort of like the hardship rule.
Thank you. We'll start with a question. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you, Rafa. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Laura.
Kind of just touched on this recovery, but we've played Cincinnati on the road twice this season. We're back at home facing them the first time this season at home. What are the team's preparation going into the match? Like tactically, I know you just talked about recovery, but just go a little bit more into that.
I think it feels as if the next 7 days are just going to be about the games. It's not going to be about the training. We got back to winning ways on Wednesday night against Toronto, which I thought was vital. The mood on Thursday morning was literally night and day between the feeling that we've had for the last 3 to 4 weeks. And I've got to say, it's given everybody a lift. We now approach a game against Cincinnati, who have got similar to Toronto. They've got an interim manager. We've beat them twice this year. We beat Toronto twice before we played them. They probably haven't got anything to play for apart from pride. I've always thought that they've got some really dangerous players, exciting players that probably just haven't performed at the level that their franchise needed them to play at. Every time we've played them, they've given us a tough game. They've got good front players. The front four, I think, are really lively, difficult to play against. So they were so unlucky against Chicago in midweek. I think it was a 94th minute goal, a brilliant goal, one of the goals of the week against Chicago that beat them. They showed good spirit to come down back from 2-0 in the first half and then 3-2, and then, so they're building for next season. It makes them dangerous, but it's also a great opportunity for us at home to build on what we saw the other night, which was a real exciting performance from a team that had just lost 6 games, that played with a bit of freedom and a bit of enjoyment, and that's what really pleased me the most.
We'll go to Michelle, then Franco.
So piggybacking on that, all the enjoyment, the freedom, the way they played the other night, do you go into this next game and do the same thing? You mentioned the other day, Fede, you have to see, can he do it again Saturday? But
yeah. Considering
how the team played and everything you just said, do you just stick with that formula for tomorrow?
Yeah, but basically, yeah. I think that they're at the stage of the season where we don't need to rest anybody, we don't need to protect anybody, we don't need to think about a month's time or the road trips, or it is we're getting to the point where we've got to just give everything we can. We can't leave anything in the dressing room. We've got to give every ounce of energy. We can't leave anything in the tank, and it's a case of go out there and perform to the same levels again. And yeah, there are 1 or 2 that have played maybe 2 games this week of real high intensity. Thinking about Indiana Vasilev, who was really tired after the game the other night, but he's also at the point where he's not had overly that much football, where you say, well, what am I protecting him for? Just go out there and run until you can't run no more, and I'll bring somebody else in and play. So we're at that point now where it's we're not really saving people for the bigger picture. It's do or die. It's win tomorrow or our season's over. So it's there's no point saving anybody for Wednesday. Because Wednesday might never come if we don't get the right result tomorrow. Well, hopefully Wednesday will come. But you know what I mean.
Next question, Franco, then Dayron.
Hey, Phil. You touched on Wednesday about with the absences, decide between going with 4 at the back like you did on Wednesday, right? Or maybe switching to 5 to have that extra solidity. I imagine you will not tell us which you're going with, but how have you gone about that thought process over the last couple of days going into tomorrow in terms of how you approach it? And just a quick second one on Aime. Why is there doubt about him maybe being on the roster or not for tomorrow, given that last time he was given the clearance?
Yeah, I think in terms of Aime, it's making sure we have all the right documents in place. We have the right documents in terms of who's out injured, what's their injury, evidence of their injury. That's the only thing that I always think until somebody tells me 100%. And I think the last time when we played the Red Bulls, until somebody said Aime's got the go-ahead, you just never know. So I think we've got I'm going to say an unbreakable case. I think we've got a case that can't be said no to, because we are like an A&E hospital over there at this moment in time. Until somebody tells me that Aime can play tomorrow, then we're planning probably for both eventualities. In terms of the mindset, we're focusing on ourselves. We're focusing on our own performance. We're focusing on how can we score enough goals to win the game tomorrow. It was good to get 3-0 up in the game. It was good to be able to recover some of the players on the pitch. It was good to see the players play with a little bit of freedom. It was good. It was incredible feeling as a manager to sit back in your chair for like the last 20 minutes and just be totally relaxed for the first time, I think, of this season. Every game seems to go to the 95th minute for us. So the control that we had the other night, I think we conserved our energy in terms of the last 20 minutes and keeping the ball. And the players had fun and the supporters had fun watching us. So I just want that feeling again. I want that feeling in every game this season from now to the end of the season. We've got a massive, incredible mountain to climb to get in the playoffs. I think make no bones about it. The results went for us the other night. The results will have to go for us for the next 4 games. You think about the teams that are on 41 to 42 points, probably only need 2 more wins, maybe 2 wins and a draw. We need to win every single game, so that means that they can afford to slip up, we can't. So that makes it a real mountain to climb.
Next question, Dayron.
Thank you,
Steve
Rafa.
Brenner.
Hi, Phil. I might get a little bit confused saying this, but I'll do my best, okay? Going over last Wednesday plan, with Lewis Morgan playing a little bit higher as a midfielder with more offensive responsibilities than defensive. You talk about him having more freedom and everything, and it sounds to me like it gave you a solution in terms of Gonzalo Wayne, that he's been the whole season going down to take the ball as a 10, and Lewis Morgan staying or getting in as a number 9 or as a player who help the team to stick the center backs in the defense and to have someone also there up to give more wideness to the team. Is that a formula that you are working on?
Well, I think what we had the other night is that when you're playing with when Fede plays with Gonzalo, there is a tremendous trust between them both, that Gonzalo knows that Fede will feed him the pass. So that means that Gonzalo has that tremendous trust that, I have someone there that will give me the pass so I can stay higher, which I always think is the best place for Gonzalo to be. It's where he's most effective, it's where he is his most dangerous, it's where he has most of his goal-scoring opportunities. And I'd say that this season we've wrestled between the player that can make the assist or the player that can score the goal. And unfortunately for us this season, or fortunately, we've got a player that does both and has been the only player that's done both for us consistently. So we've wrestled between them both. I think when Fede plays, there's without a shadow of a doubt we need speed in wide areas, because Fede, Gonzalo probably don't provide that type of threat for the opposition team. So having speed with Vasilev and Morgan being the two that really going to stretch teams in behind means that Gonzalo gets more space, and so too does Federico. And I suppose that worked a lot for us. If you think about the big run when we went one defeat in 13, we had even in the five at the back system, we had real attacking wing backs in Breck or Kieran and Lewis. But even the 7s and 10s that played inside, at times with Vasilev, at times with Lewis, at times with Robbie Robinson. So we had great speed around them that would stretch the play and create gaps. So it's a formula that we know works well. It's a formula that we know that really is ultimately the best thing for the team is for Gonzalo to be high as we possibly can, high up the pitch, on the last line, threatening in behind, and receiving the ball in the most critical area, and not being the provider rather than the person that puts the ball in the back of the net. And that we've known that from day one. I knew that before I got the job when I was watching all the games last year, that ultimately we had to get Gonzalo higher up the pitch. And I suppose in the conundrum we've had this season is we've tried to utilise both of his qualities.
Why didn't you try that formula earlier?
We did. I mean, you think back to Philadelphia away. The plan against Philadelphia away was to have Lewis Morgan and Robbie Robinson, when they were fit, really high and wide, and Gonzalo was probably playing a little bit in, and Pizarro playing a little bit deeper, or they had more space. In the runs that we had, he was the highest man. Now, ultimately, when we hit a bit of a difficult patch, we realised that we probably needed a little bit more support up there because teams were dropping off, and we needed a bit more creativity in midfield. With Federico out and Rodolfo playing in a slightly different position, we felt that with Robbie higher up and Gonzalo in behind, then that would work. But ultimately, we've gone back to the formula that I think's best.
Next question, Steve.
Hi, Phil. I mean, last week you were speaking about players being under pressure and all stuff like that, because managers too come under a lot of pressure. Your old mate Steve Bruce got the sack this week. Ollie at United. I mean, it's in your experience, is the pressure on managers amplified in this whole social media age, or has it always been there, or has it changed throughout the years? Because like Steve Bruce and Ollie were getting been under a lot of pressure, haven't they? I
think if you highlight the Steve Bruce case, I think that went beyond criticism. That was a form of bullying. That was a form of disgusting behaviour. That was a form of trolling. That was a form of the most disgusting things I've ever read or seen in my whole life, in my whole career. I think for one manager, I've never known a manager probably suffer the kind of I'm not so sure abuse is strong enough word to use. So I'd say that now we live in an era where it's seen as quite normal to ask people to be sacked, which I find absolutely incredible. I think if you was any other profession and you walked into a shop and you said, I want you to be sacked, I think you would be probably reported to the police, maybe for bullying or for some kind of discrimination. I think when you're a football manager, or particularly high profile football people, I think it's almost accepted, and you can maybe put MPs into that, maybe the abuse that they get. It's a form of bullying, it's a form of discrimination, it's a form of disgusting behaviour that I think needs controlling better. And I think Steve Bruce, what I've loved about the Steve Bruce situation is the aftermath. I think I saw one of the Newcastle players come out, Alan Maxim, the winger. I forget his full name. And I read the words that he put out, and I thought that was the most amazing words that you could see about a manager. And I hope Steve saw them, because Steve is the most humble, classiest man. Helped me in my career, was a father figure for me. 1,000 games as a manager, 950 I think as a player. And I think the aftermath of that shows the class of the man. He's never said anything. He's got on with his job. He's took the sacking. He's now probably not going to be a manager, he said. But ultimately, what an unbelievable career he's had, and the way he's handled himself, I think is a great example to me as a young manager of how you should handle yourself. But ultimately, the abuse that he was taking was beyond abuse. I thought it was a form of discrimination. I thought it was a form of bullying. And if it happened in any other workplace, and we see it nowadays in this new brigade, this new era that we live in, any form of that kind of behaviour is hit upon really hard. But for a football manager, it's different. So I think as football managers, we've all supported each other this week, and it won't be the last. It won't be the last. It'll happen again because there's no policing of social media. There's no policing of anything on that social media account. Pundits are a little bit going down that road of saying managers should be sacked. Which is just ridiculous, and I know he's my brother, but I know he came out in midweek and said he will never call for a manager to be sacked. But I think that's just a value that every pundit should have out there. You should never ask for anybody else to be sacked because you wouldn't like it yourself, and that's a bit of a rant, Steve. But I'm sorry, that's how I feel.
Next question, Chris Smith, and then Jose.
Wow.
Hey, Phil. Yes, you mentioned earlier in the press conference that you're quite threadbare for the game at the weekends, but you've also spoken quite a lot about how you're keen to improve the squad and get younger. I just wanted to know whether you think it's achievable and whether you're confident that, given the contracts that you already have on the books for next season and the sanctions that are coming into place, how confident are you that you are going to be able to significantly improve the squad for next season?
Well, we at this moment in time, there's been no discussions on next year's roster. We have got a lot of players that are coming to end at the end of their contracts, and I think we said it in the last press conference that it's a difficult situation for everybody, and the sanctions that the club have received mean that next year is going to be, we're going to have to be really, really good at building a roster against the sanctions that we've been receiving. So in 3 weeks' time, hopefully, or longer, hopefully in December, is the aim. We'll sit down, me and Chris Henderson and the ownership, and think of the best way to build a roster that can be competitive. This club has to be competitive. There's going to be no excuses whether we put the youngest team out there or the oldest team out with the most experience in the MLS. There's going to be no excuses. Come the first day of next season, the first game, the supporters, the ownership, the manager, the players, the MLS will be expecting us to go out there and compete and to win for games of football. And yes, we will be changing parts of the roster, but every team will be doing that. Yes, we hope to promote an exciting bunch of our USL players. You know, a really exciting bunch of players who are working so hard, that have got great experience this year of training with us. They deserve the opportunity to come up, maybe 2, 3, 4 of them, if they keep progressing. But ultimately, we want to be competitive. This club has to win games of football. This club has to win trophies. That's what the ownership want. And that's what me as a manager have to deliver. So, yes, we will have a challenge. Yes, we will have big challenges on building a roster. Yes, we will have many obstacles and barriers in front of us. But that won't be an excuse for us being competitive next year.
Last question, Jose.
Thank you, Rafa. Phil, you talked about the chemistry, the trust between the Higuain brothers, and especially Gonzalo with Fede, in terms of the relationship they had on the field on Wednesday. Why do you think Gonzalo hasn't been able to develop a similar situation with any of the other midfielders in the team that would actually allow him to play at the top, like you just mentioned a few seconds ago? Thank you.
Well, I think he has developed glimpses of partnerships with Robbie, with Hooli at times, Carranza, with Rodolfo. You know, you think back to some of the games this season, Philadelphia, LA at home, I thought they played brilliant together. Chicago when Rodolfo came on, Toronto when Rodolfo and Gonzalo played together. So we've had glimpses, but nothing probably as good as the Federico partnership, and in terms of the understanding that you expect from a 9 and a 10. And that happens in football. You know, I saw it a lot in my day. You know, you think back to partnerships that worked and partnerships that you thought on paper could work that didn't. And ultimately it goes back to, you know, the fact that they are brothers, they're from the same country, they grew up together, they have an understanding, a trust of each other. And that goes a long way when you're building partnerships. And you know, it's unfortunately we've not been able to, because of probably the way, the stage of which Federico is at in his career, we've not been able to play that as regularly as we can. In the last few weeks, Federico was injured as well, so I think we've got absolutely maximum out of Federico this year. He's been absolutely sensational in everything that he's done in and around the place. And we hope that he finishes the season on a real high, and that we can have some success, because without doubt he's been a dream to manage.
Thank you, Coach.
That's good.